She screamed, "You can't go in there. This is HOA property now." Her voice echoed through the quiet morning as I stood by my own front gate, staring at the brand new lock she'd drilled into the metal. My hands tightened around the fence as I tried to understand what I was seeing. Just last night, everything had been normal. My truck parked inside, my tools on the porch, and the American flag swaying gently over the gate. But now there was yellow tape, a bright red HOA violation notice, and her, Karen, standing there like she owned the whole neighborhood. I took a slow breath. "Karen, you don't even live on this street." "Oh, but I do now," she snapped, waving a clipboard. "And as acting president of the HOA, I'm enforcing new property boundaries. This gate is illegal," I almost laughed. "Illegal? I built this gate with city approval." She leaned closer, squinting like she was looking for something to argue with. "Then why don't you have the HOA permit?" "That was new." "Because there is no HOA here," I said, trying to stay calm. Karen smiled. That smug, slow kind of smile that meant trouble was coming. "There is now. We voted last week. Everyone agreed to join except you. So technically, your property is under violation until you comply." I felt the heat rise in my chest. "You locked me out of my own land." She crossed her arms. "Then maybe you shouldn't have ignored our letters." There were no letters. No meetings. Nothing. But she was serious, standing there like she had authority with a fake badge hanging from her neck that read, "Community Enforcement Officer." My dog started barking from inside the fence, confused and scared. That did it. I reached for my phone. "You know what, Karen? Let's see what real law enforcement says about this." Her expression twitched for just a second, then she smirked. "Go ahead. They'll tell you the same thing I did." But something about the way she said it made me pause, like she knew someone on the inside. Or thought she did. Either way, I wasn't backing down. "Not this time." As I dialed the sheriff's number, she muttered, "You're going to regret this, maybe I would." Or maybe she was about to find out that I wasn't just another homeowner. Viral line. She thought that fake lock could keep me out. Too bad she didn't know who installed the real ones. The sheriff's cruiser rolled up 15 minutes later, lights flashing, tires crunching over the gravel. Karen stood tall, clutching her clipboard like it was a weapon. I could already see the smug look on her face, that confident grin that said she thought she had this in the bag. As soon as Deputy Harris stepped out, she rushed to him, waving her papers. "Officer! Thank God you're here. He's trespassing on HOA property and threatening me." I froze for a second, not because I was scared, but because of how fast she lied. Word for word, she flipped the story. The deputy frowned and turned to me. "Sir, can I see some ID?" Karen folded her arms, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. "You're done, buddy." I handed over my license, keeping my tone calm. "Deputy, this is my property. She put a lock on my gate overnight and claims I can't enter." "There's no HOA here," Karen snorted. "He's lying. We have official documentation." She shoved a thick stack of printed forms into the deputy's hands, all covered in HOA logos, signatures, and some kind of official seal that looked off, too shiny, too clean. Deputy Harris scanned the papers, his eyes narrowing. "Where did you get these forms, ma'am?" She straightened up. "From the HOA headquarters, obviously." That's when I caught it. The seal said Hillside Association of Neighbors. The problem? Our community was Lakeside Meadows. She'd literally copied a name from another town. I stepped closer. "Deputy, look at the header. That's not even our neighborhood. Those are fake documents." Karen's face went pale for half a second before she barked, "He's harassing me. I have witnesses." Two people from down the street walked up, confused. One whispered, "Karen, what's going on?" She snapped, "Stay out of it. This man is trying to break HOA law." Deputy Harris held up a hand. "Enough. I'm calling this in." He walked back to his cruiser, talking quietly into his radio. Karen glared at me the whole time. "You think you can outsmart me? My cousin's on the county board. He'll be sorry." But then, the deputy's voice cut through her threats. "Ma'am, can you explain why the property records show this land has been privately owned for 15 years? Under his name." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I crossed my arms, finally letting the smallest grin show. "Guess your HOA forgot to update their files." The deputy turned toward her. "Ma'am, tampering with private property is a serious offense. Did you install this lock?" Karen stuttered. I didn't personally." "Then who did?" He pressed. She hesitated, then whispered something too low for us to hear. That's when I noticed the black SUV parked 2 houses down, engine running, tinted windows. Someone was watching. Karen wasn't working alone, and the people behind that SUV were about to make this mess a whole lot worse. The black SUV's door opened with a heavy thud. Out stepped a man in a tailored suit and dark sunglasses, the kind of person who didn't belong on a quiet street like ours. Karen straightened immediately, her fake confidence returning like someone had just recharged her battery. "There he is," she said, pointing at me as if she'd been waiting for her backup all along. "That's Mr. Dalton, our HOA legal advisor." The man didn't smile. He just adjusted his glasses and walked right past the deputy like he owned the place. "Deputy Harris," he said smoothly, "this is a civil matter. My client represents the HOA of Lakeside Meadows, and this man is violating multiple community codes. We'd appreciate it if you asked him to step away from the property." The deputy frowned. "Sir, this land isn't listed under any HOA jurisdiction. It's privately owned," Dalton smirked, pulling out a folder. "That's where you're mistaken. New bylaws were filed last week. Technically, this property falls under Section 14C, Community Access Land." I couldn't help but laugh. "Community access? That's my driveway." Karen's lips curled. "And soon to be public use parking for lake visitors." I stared at her. "You turned my land into a parking lot?" "Correction," Dalton said, flipping a page. "A shared public entry space. You'll be compensated after review." The deputy's hand hovered near his radio again. "This doesn't sound right." I stepped closer, my voice low. "Deputy, do you mind if I make a quick call before we go any further?" He nodded cautiously. I dialed a number I hadn't used in months. It rang twice. Then a calm voice answered. "County Property Enforcement, this is Chief Walker." Karen froze. "Chief who?" I handed the phone to the deputy. "You might want to talk to him." The moment Harris said his name, Dalton's confident posture cracked just slightly. He turned away, pretending to check his phone. Chief Walker's voice came through loud and clear from the deputy's radio speaker. "If anyone's claiming new HOA rights over 417 Lakeview Drive, stop them immediately. That land is protected under the county's private owner exemption. And tell whoever filed those fake bylaws they just triggered a fraud investigation." Karen's clipboard slipped from her hand. The papers scattered over the gravel like confetti. Dalton stepped back, muttering, "This isn't over." "Oh, it's over," I said, unlocking my own phone. "Because I've got everything on camera. The lock, the fake notices, your little meeting last night." Karen's eyes widened. You filmed us?" "Every second." The deputy looked between us, then back at me. "Sir, I think you and I should take a look at that footage at the station." I nodded. "Gladly," Karen whispered, trembling now. "You can't do this. We were just enforcing order." I looked her dead in the eye. "Order doesn't start with a lie." Viral line. They thought they were rewriting the rules. They didn't realize I helped write the county's property laws. The next morning, the story had already hit local news. My neighbor Tyler sent me a clip from his phone. My driveway on live TV, flashing with police lights. Karen in handcuffs arguing with reporters, and that smug lawyer Dalton slipping into his SUV, face hidden behind a folder. The caption on the screen read, "Fake HOA scam busted. Homeowner catches group on camera." I didn't expect it to spread so fast, but by noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. County officials, neighbors, even real HOAs from nearby towns calling to say they'd never heard of any Lakeside Meadows Association. It was like a fire had started, and the truth was gasoline. But what really caught my eye was one text, from an unknown number. "We warned you to stay quiet. This isn't over." I showed it to Deputy Harris when I met him at the station. He frowned. "We traced Dalton's firm. It doesn't exist, just a P.O. box and a fake website. But the emails and documents they filed were professional. Too professional for a random scammer." He leaned back, crossing his arms. "Whoever's behind this knows the system inside out." I felt a chill crawl up my neck. "You think this goes beyond Karen?" He nodded slowly. "Oh, definitely. And guess what? The signatures on those fake bylaws. One matches a name you might recognize." He slid a printout across the table. The signature at the bottom was unmistakable. Tyler M. Grant, my own neighbor. The same guy who'd texted me the video that morning. For a moment, I didn't say a word. Tyler had always been the friendly neighbor. Barbecues, small talk, borrowing tools. But I remembered something. Last month, he'd been asking strange questions about my deed. The easement lines, the gate permit. Back then, I thought he was just curious. Now it looked like he'd been gathering intel. Karen, Dalton, Tyler. It was starting to feel less like a neighborhood dispute and more like an organized setup. I looked at Harris. What if the HOA thing was just a cover-up for a land grab? He nodded. That's exactly what we're thinking. They tried to annex your land first, then the rest of the lakefront, and Tyler's the link between them. Outside, reporters were swarming the parking lot shouting questions. Harris looked at me and said quietly, "You ready for this to go public?" I exhaled. Yeah, but let me show you something first. I pulled out my phone, opened my security app, and tapped a thumbnail. The footage began playing, a nighttime clip of Tyler, Dalton, and Karen standing by my gate, laughing as they changed the lock. And then something else. A fourth figure in the shadows giving them orders. The voice was distorted, but one line was clear. Make it look official. Once the county records update, the land's ours. Harris froze. Who the hell is that? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. That voice? I know it. Viral line. The fake HOA was just the surface, and the real enemy was someone I trusted with my house keys. That night, the air around the lake felt different and still heavy like the calm before a storm. The deputy's cruiser was parked near my gate again, headlights off this time. I sat on my porch with a mug of cold coffee, replaying that audio over and over. That voice in the video wasn't random, it was familiar. At first I couldn't place it. Then it hit me. The drawl. The way he said county records. It was Mr. Harlan, the county surveyor. The same man who'd approved my land permits 5 years ago. The same man who'd told me, don't worry, your property's untouchable. Except now he was the one trying to take it. Before I could process that, headlights flickered down the road. Karen's minivan. She wasn't alone. I could see her in the passenger seat, pale and shaking, while Dalton drove. They pulled up near my driveway but didn't get out. The SUV idled there for a few seconds, then reversed fast, like they were scared of being seen. My phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. She talked. You shouldn't have filmed us. I showed it to Deputy Harris the next morning. He frowned. She's scared. That message didn't come from her. Whoever's behind this wants you out of town. I shook my head. Not happening. That afternoon, the county inspector came by to replace the gate locks under official order. But when he handed me the paperwork, I noticed something odd. At the bottom, in faint ink, was that same bogus HOA seal. Only now it had been stamped over with the county's real one. Where did this come from? I asked. The inspector hesitated. Came from higher up. County surveyor's office, that confirmed it. Harlan wasn't just involved. He was covering their tracks. I called Harris immediately. He's forging county documents. He's in on it. Within an hour, we had a warrant request on file. But before it could even be signed, a black SUV showed up outside my gate again. Not Dalton's this time. 2 men stepped out in suits, holding briefcases and wearing county ID tags. Mr. Reed, one asked. We're here to inspect your property boundaries. Routine check. I didn't move. Routine? And 8 p.m.? He smiled faintly. Some issues can't wait. Behind me, my dog growled low, fur bristling. I took 1 step forward. You got ID, show it again. They flashed the badges and the names didn't match. I hit record on my phone and said, Deputy Harris is 2 minutes away. You might want to wait for him. The taller one smirked. Then I guess we'll be leaving before he gets here. They turned fast, climbed back into the SUV, and sped off. But as they did, something slipped from the passenger window. A small envelope that landed near my mailbox. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten. Stop digging or you'll lose more than your gate. My hands trembled, but not from fear. From fury. They'd tried intimidation. They'd used fake law, fake locks, fake HOAs. And now they were threatening me on my own land. I looked straight into my camera and said quietly, let's see how they handle this when the whole county's watching. Viral line. They built their power on forged papers. But I had the one document they couldn't fake. The truth. By the next morning, chaos had taken over the neighborhood. News vans lined the road. Reporters swarmed the gate that had once been chained shut, now cut open and shining with fresh county seals. Every neighbor who'd once stayed quiet was outside, whispering, filming, pointing. Karen's house, just 3 doors down, looked abandoned. Curtains drawn, mailbox stuffed, the for sale sign crooked in the yard. But when I stepped out to grab the morning paper, I saw her, sitting in her car, engine off, eyes red and swollen. For a second, she didn't notice me. Then she looked up, startled, and rolled down the window halfway. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she muttered. Her voice was thin, shaking. "They said it was just about the fence. They said no one would get hurt." I stepped closer. "Who, Karen?" She rubbed her forehead. "Dalton. But he worked for someone higher. He said Harlan owed him favors. Land rights, zoning approvals. They were trying to flip the lakefront and sell it to a developer. My job was to make you give up your property voluntarily." I stared at her. "By locking me out?" Tears ran down her cheeks. "He said it was the only way. He promised me a percentage." A sound came from behind us, a car door slamming. Deputy Harris walked up, his expression stone cold. "We've got enough," he said quietly. "She's confessing on tape." Karen looked panicked. "No, I'm trying to help." He nodded to her. "Then help us. Where's Dalton now?" She hesitated, then whispered, "He's meeting Harlan at the county storage yard tonight. They're burning the old property records. That was it. The break we needed." By nightfall, we were parked across from the dimly lit yard, headlights off. 2 figures stood near a barrel fire, Dalton and Harlan, both tossing stacks of files into the flames. Harris adjusted his body cam, muttering, "We get them in frame, that's all we need." But before we could move, a third man stepped out of the shadows. Tyler, my neighbor. He was holding a folder. I leaned forward. "What the hell?" Tyler opened the folder, showing Dalton something. Looked like maps. My property lines. He was handing them over like trading cards. I felt my jaw tighten. He sold me out. Then just as they started talking, headlights flashed from the far end of the yard. Backup had arrived. Real County deputies flooded in, shouting commands. Harlan dropped his briefcase and ran, but Harris tackled him halfway to the gate. Dalton froze, hands up, muttering about misunderstandings. Tyler didn't move. He just stared at me across the flashing lights, guilt written all over his face. When they cuffed him, I finally stepped out. "You had barbecues with my family," I said quietly. "You looked me in the eye while planning to steal my land." He swallowed hard. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. They said you'd just give up." "Yeah," I said, voice low. "That's what they always say, right before they lose everything." Karen stood at the gate, watching from a distance, sobbing as Dalton and Harlan were loaded into cruisers. For once, she didn't look like the queen of the block, just a woman who'd finally realized the cost of her lies. Viral line. They tried to erase my name from the land I built, but in the end, they burned their own instead. The courthouse was packed. Reporters shoulder to shoulder, flashes popping like fireworks. Every seat was filled, every word echoing through the tense air. The trial had become a spectacle, the fake HOA scandal that rocked Lakeside County. Karen sat at the defense table beside Dalton and Harlan, her hands folded tightly, eyes fixed on the floor. Tyler was in a separate row, avoiding everyone's gaze. When the judge entered, even the audience went silent. The prosecutor started with a clear, calm tone. "Your Honor, this case isn't about a simple property dispute. It's about fraud, intimidation, and abuse of power, all designed to strip homeowners of their rights." Dalton tried to smirk, but his confidence was gone. Harlan kept glancing nervously at his briefcase as if wishing he could crawl into it. Then the prosecutor nodded toward me. "Mr. Reed, please take the stand." As I walked up, every camera turned. I took a deep breath and told them exactly what happened. The fake notices, the illegal locks, the phony bylaws, and the night they tried to destroy the records. I showed the video clips, the text threats, even the audio of Harlan giving orders by the fire. Karen buried her face in her hands as the room erupted in whispers. When it was Dalton's turn to speak, he tried the usual trick. "Your Honor, my clients were misled by incomplete legal guidance. This homeowner misunderstood the intent." The judge cut him off sharply. "Mr. Dalton, you forged county documents and impersonated a government body. That's not incomplete guidance, that's a felony." The courtroom buzzed. Then, unexpectedly, Karen stood up. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge sighed. "Briefly." She turned toward me, voice trembling. "I know I can't undo what I did. I thought joining them would give me control, make me important. But all it did was destroy everything I had. She paused, wiping tears. He was the only one who stood up to us. Everyone else was too scared. And he still treated me like a person even when I didn't deserve it. For the first time, the courtroom went quiet, not out of pity, but because the truth had finally landed. The judge nodded slowly. "Ms. Walker, your cooperation has been noted, but it does not erase your actions," she nodded. "I understand." The verdict came fast. Dalton, 5 years for fraud and falsifying records. Harlan, 7 for corruption and obstruction. Tyler, 2 years probation for conspiracy. And Karen, 1 year community service with mandatory restitution. When it was over, I stepped outside into the sunlight, cameras flashing all around. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Reed, what are you going to do now that it's all over?" I smiled faintly. "I'm going home. And I'm putting my gate back up." Behind me, Karen walked out with her lawyer, eyes swollen but calm. As she passed, she whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "You were right about one thing. Power built on lies never lasts." I nodded. Neither do locks built on someone else's land. Viral line. They called it justice when they took my gate down. But real justice was watching them walk out through it in handcuffs. A few weeks later, the neighborhood was quiet again. The kind of peaceful silence that had once made me buy this place in the first place. The air smelled like pine and lake water. My gate stood tall, newly repainted, the lock gleaming in the morning sun, not to keep people out but to remind me what it took to earn it back. The county sent an apology letter, signed personally by the new commissioner, promising tighter oversight and new transparency laws. My story had gone viral, millions of views, hundreds of comments from people across the country saying, "That's exactly what we're fighting in our town too." And that's when it hit me. It wasn't just about my land anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been bullied, silenced, or pushed off their own ground by fake authority and loud entitlement. One evening, I was fixing the mailbox when a car pulled up. Karen stepped out holding an envelope. She looked smaller somehow. Not in size, but in spirit. "I know you don't owe me a second of your time," she said softly, "but I wanted you to have this." Inside the envelope was a handwritten note and a check. Every cent she'd earned from the fake HOA scheme, plus a donation to the local veterans' home. She took a shaky breath. "I can't undo what I did, but I can start fixing what I broke." I nodded slowly. "Then start with yourself. Learn what real community means." She managed a small smile. "I'm trying." Then she left. No excuses, no fake power. Just a quiet woman walking away from the mess she'd made. As the sun dipped below the lake, I sat by the fence watching the reflection of the flag in the water. For the first time in months, the land felt alive again. Not just mine by paper, but mine by right. I whispered to myself, "This land's been through worse than a few bad locks. It stood longer than their greed ever could." My dog barked once, chasing a squirrel by the tree line, and I laughed. Life was normal again, but deeper, stronger. I recorded one last message for everyone who'd followed the story. They tried to claim my land with forged rules and fake power. But you can't take what's truly earned, not a gate, not a home, not freedom. Because the moment you stand up for it, that's when you realize what being American really means. Final viral line. I didn't fight to keep a gate locked. I fought to keep the right to open it whenever I damn well please.